Hello everyone, welcome to Some Best Studios. My name's Matt, and in this video I'm going to be doing my Download Festival 2026 unofficial rankings that absolutely nobody has asked for. So for the last couple of years that I've been to Download Festival, I've been doing little silly reviews on my Instagram stories, and this year I've had quite a few people message me about them and want to talk about them, which is really cool. So I thought actually kind of building on that, making videos is something that I do for work, but I've kind of been wanting to start making some stuff for my own personal enjoyment as well, really. So I thought this actually gives me a quite nice in. It's quite a nice opportunity to start doing this and kind of building on the concept that people are clearly enjoying on my Instagram posts. So yeah, the way this is going to work is... So here I've got logos of the bands that I caught over Download Festival weekend. I've organised them in order that I saw them over the weekend, so we'll kind of go through them. I'll chat a little bit about them and kind of say what I thought about them. One thing to probably point out is these are the bands that I chose to go and see, and for the most part I do try and see like a full set. There are a couple which are, a couple of songs here and there whilst I was waiting for somebody else to start on a different stage or something, and I'll kind of point those out as we kind of go through it. But yeah, these are my thoughts. These are my feelings coming away from these shows of these bands. It's completely subjective. It's a bit of fun. If you disagree, comment down below. Let me know. I'm more than happy and actually quite interested to kind of see what other people think about things and if they kind of agree or disagree with me as well. So let's get straight into it then. So the first band on the Friday that we caught was POD. I'll be honest, I don't know too much about these guys. I feel like they're a band that appeared on Tony Hawk Pro Skater soundtracks a lot. They finished with a song that I did know. That song was called Alive. That was really cool. I enjoyed that. What blew my mind though was it the bassist? I think it was the bassist dedicated this song to his daughter, and everyone goes, "Oh, that's nice." And he goes, "Who was born last night?" And I'm like, dude, you should not be here. You've got far more important places to be than at Download Festival. Fair play to him, man, because I think 99.9% of people would have been like, "Sorry guys, I've got to shoot." So POD were the first band on. As I say, didn't know too much about them, but what I heard was pretty good. So as they're the first band on, they just go straight into the rankings. From there then, the next band I went to go and see was a band called Paleface Swiss. Again, I don't know too much about these guys. I just know they're growing in popularity quite quickly. I think they've been on the Downbeat podcast fairly recently with Craig Reynolds, and I've seen their name come up a fair amount. So I was interested to go and check these guys out and see what they're about. Most bands have a walkout song, like a track that they kind of play, get everyone pumped, walk out to. Maybe it's a little bit atmospheric at times. These guys didn't. These guys kind of came out and did a cold start, but then these guys just let rip. And it was absolutely awesome. If you're a fan of early Slipknot, these guys have got that vibe just without the masks. For me, I'm going to take Paleface Swiss and I'm going to put them ahead of POD, if this works. It's a little bit slow. There we go. So yeah, Paleface Swiss go ahead of POD. Then for us, it was back down to the main stage. Next on stage was Pendulum. This was absolutely awesome. This was proper 2010s, just absolute tunes. Yeah, played loads of great tunes. They played something off the new album, which was really cool. Really liked that. And that little electronic guitar, I don't know what it's called, that the front guy plays is just unique to Pendulum. That's just something that you don't see anywhere else. Really enjoyed Pendulum. They've been a band that I've been listening to a lot over the last couple of days since getting back from download. And it's been really cool to kind of get back into Pendulum and listen to them again. So Pendulum for me, coming in, new number one in the rankings ahead of Paleface Swiss. After Pendulum then was Electric Callboy. Now this was one of the bands that I instantly bought a ticket for Download Festival for. They're a band that I've wanted to see for a couple of years now. I think there was a time a couple of years ago when they played and they were in the Avalanche tent and you could not get near that tent. It was impossible. These guys have built up a reputation and are becoming a big name. I think they've even since Download announced that they're doing a UK arena tour. So these guys are picking up steam really quickly. If you've not heard of Electric Callboy, go and check them out. It's just a fun time. The best way I can describe it is if the Eurovision Song Contest met like metalcore from 2010s. It's just an absolute vibe. The songs are great fun. They've got Frank Zumo, who was the drummer in Sum 41, as their drummer now, who's an absolutely awesome drummer. Songs like Elevator Operator, Techno Train. They've just released a song with The Offspring. They've just got big tunes. And yeah, they were great. They were really, really good. The only criticism I would have of this Electric Callboy set is because Frank Zumo's in the band, they've released a cover of Still Waiting, the Sum 41 song, which is cool, brill, like it, get it, play it live, awesome. They then also did a cover of a Blink-182 song, and I felt it was just playing the same party trick twice. And especially when they've got a recorded version of Cascada, Every Time I Touch, like in their discography, that was a big song that kind of broke them out and got a lot of people into the band. I'd have preferred them to have played that rather than the Blink-182 song, and that comes of somebody who's a big Blink-182 fan. I just felt it was a little bit repetitive. And then these guys had a big slot. I think it was like an hour-long slot. And they did this whole electric bass boy bit where they were kind of like DJing sort of electronic music in the middle of it. Fine, that's not really for me. I think I'd have preferred to have heard more Electric Callboy songs, really. So overall, though, really, really enjoyable. Huge amount of fun. Where do these guys live? This is the question. Better or Pendulum? I think I'd put them ahead of Paleface Swiss. Do they go in front of Pendulum or do they go behind Pendulum? This is tricky. I'm going to put them behind Pendulum. So after Electric Callboy, it was legging it up the hill and getting across to the second stage for Hailstorm. Now, Hailstorm are a band that I've seen play Download before, and as somebody who, when I saw them for the first time, hadn't really listened to Hailstorm before, was just blown away with them that first time I saw them. I feel like every year Download has a band that you watch and it's just like, oh yeah, you're really good. And whether you've kind of heard that band before and it's sort of a rediscovery, or whether it's seeing a band for the first time and be like, you're brilliant. Like Hailstorm have been that band for me in the past. Shinedown have been that band for me in the past. Blackstone Cherry have been that band for me in the past. So was very excited to see them kind of get a headline slot on the second stage. Lizzie Hale is a phenomenal vocalist. Her voice is just absolutely incredible. And the drummer is a proper show pony, which I really respect. There's one bit where he does a bit of a drum solo and then chucks his drumsticks away and brings out these massive drumsticks and he plays drum beats with that. Wicked. I've got a lot of time for that sort of stuff. I think Hailstorm are a band that are on the right path to headlining this festival one day. We'll kind of come back to this later on. I know there was a lot of talk this year about Linkin Park being the first female-fronted band to headline Download Festival. I feel like you do need to put an asterisk next to that statement because Emily's obviously come into that band after it's been established with Mike and Chester. And as much as I love Emily, I think she's done a wicked job at Linkin Park. I don't know if you can claim that accolade fully. Whereas Hailstorm are a band that I think could claim that accolade fully and probably deserve to claim that accolade fully. Evanescence would be another one. But going back to Hailstorm and this rankings then, I'm going to put Hailstorm ahead of Pendulum. And then end of the Friday of Download Festival then was Limp Bizkit. So Limp Bizkit played 2 years ago at Download. I think they were second on the bill under Avenged Sevenfold, and the field was absolutely packed for them. And I think that moment was the moment where Download went, oh, this is a headlining band. Fred comes out wearing this massive curly wig, and he's just got a look in his eye. He's one of those guys that will keep a stern face, but he's got a look in his eye that tells you he's having the best time in the world, and that just gets you up for it. The best thing about this the best thing about this Limp Bizkit set was, for me, a Download headliner needs to be an act that we can all go sing along to. There's nothing better than being stood in a field with 90 odd of the 1,000 people just singing your heart out to your favourite bands. Limp Bizkit knew this and were like, okay, some people might not know our music, so what are we going to do about it? We're going to make the back screen a karaoke screen. And they put the words to every single song of the set on the back so that we could all sing along and have an absolutely lovely time. That was absolutely inspired. I thought that was wicked and a really fun use of a digital backdrop, which I'm not really a fan of. I get that why people do it. It's obviously cheaper, but yeah, I thought that was a good use of that. Their set was really cool as well. There were lots of little Easter eggs and nods to other bands in there. It was kind of like the drum set was on the sort of like record shelf thing. So I noticed a couple of other bands being referenced in there, which was really cool. And then Wes, awesome guitarist, wicked guitar tones, brilliant riffs. What's he going to wear? Nobody knows until he struts out on stage. And then the other thing to note about Limp Bizkit is that they had the only acceptable use of AI in music that there will ever be. They had an image about George Michael whilst they played Faith, and they had an image about Tom Cruise when they played Take a Look Around. That is the only time AI will ever be acceptable in the music industry, and I loved it. So Limp Bizkit, brilliant. One of my bands of the weekend, one of the highlights of the weekend. They're going to go straight in at number one. I'm going to bump down Hailstorm to there. Yeah, Limp Bizkit straight in at number one. On to day two. So the first band that we parked up and saw was Black Veil Brides. They're a good band. Andy's got a wicked voice. Band are really cool. Play some good songs. I feel like they're one of those bands though that I feel like maybe should have kicked up a gear and for whatever reason just haven't. I don't know why that is, but I think they are a good band and played well here. So in terms of where they go, I'm probably going to place them just below Electric Callboy, I think. Good band, good songs, maybe played a little bit too much of newer stuff that people didn't know, and it kind of killed the vibe a little bit. And Andy's got such a good voice. I wanted that to be a little bit more thunderous, and it wasn't, which was a bit of a shame. Yeah, I'm going to put them just ahead of Paleface or just below. I might adapt this. I might just bump them down to just below Paleface. I think I enjoyed Paleface's set a bit more just because I didn't know what to expect and was really impressed with that. Whereas I kind of knew a bit more about what to expect from Black Veil Brides. But not bad in any way, shape or form. But yeah, I think I'm going to put them there. So after them on the main stage was Baby Metal. I really enjoyed Baby Metal's features with Bring Me the Horizon. Really enjoyed their feature with Electric Callboy. So was interested to see what a Baby Metal show and their own music kind of feels like and looks like. But I just didn't get it, unfortunately. This just was not my cup of tea at all. I thought it felt a bit gimmicky, and you compare it to Electric Callboy, for example, where, you know, they are going off and changing outfits every couple of songs. But their outfits from the music video, and it kind of ties back into the performance and gives it that kind of Eurovision thing that they're going for. And it's all just good fun. The dance routines and the big pauses between them actually performing and do anything, I just didn't get it. I was a little bit bored, if I'm being perfectly honest. My wife loved it. My wife thought it was wicked. For me, this it's not what I'm looking for in music, unfortunately. So sadly, Baby Metal for me are going in last place. I then peeled off from Baby Metal set to go and check out As It Is in the tent. As It Is are a band, again, I've seen a couple of times. I've seen them support Neck Deep. I've seen them at Slam Dunk Festival. Just a good pop punk band, and I feel like you don't get many just straight up pop punk bands anymore. It's got some good songs. I'm a big fan of concept albums, and so the last big record that I listened to from them was The Great Depression, which I thought was excellent. So I was excited to go and see these guys because I feel like they've not done anything for a while. I guess they've just been figuring out where they're at and what they want to do and what they want out of music and out of their careers. They just played big chorus, easy to sing along to pop punk music. The crowd wasn't massive. I think a lot of people had gone to Baby Metal. I think there was something else on the second stage going on at roughly this time as well. But for those of us that were there, it was really good. And basically, I walked into the tent, was on the side, and within about 2 songs, I was sort of down the front. I had a great time, and yeah, they're a band that I can't quite understand why they're not bigger. I know that they've taken a bit of time between records, but the records that they have put out and the songs that they have put out are really good, and I feel like they should be bigger than what they are. But yeah, had a really good time with this. So I'm going to put them maybe behind Paleface. Maybe in front of Paleface. I did have a great time, and you know, like they played a couple of new songs which I've not heard before. But I think the beauty of a good pop punk song is simplicity, and the fact that within 2 choruses I'm singing along to it, I think speaks volumes at how well written their songs actually are. I'm going to put them ahead of Paleface. That might be controversial, but I'm going to put As It Is there. Really enjoyed their set. So after As It Is, it was time to get back to the main stage for Trivium. Now, last year, there was a massive slot on the main stage before Sleep Token. And I'd convinced myself that that was because it was going to be a secret set. The reason I thought it was going to be Trivium playing in this supposedly secret slot was because Matt Heafy on the day was on Instagram posting pictures of Trivium playing Download Festival. So anyone was just going to put two and two together and be like, they're playing Download, even though I think they were scheduled to play Bloodstock last year. So even though I think a lot of people are like, well, they can't do Bloodstock and Download, that seems a bit counterintuitive. But Heafy was posting about it, so yeah, anyway. Long story short, Trivium didn't appear last year, but were announced on the lineup this year. I'll be honest, I was never really into like the Ascendancy and Shogun. I was always way more of a Bullet for My Valentine fan than Trivium, but I really like In Waves as a song. They released an album around the COVID time. I think it was called What the Dead Men Say. That had Catastrophist on it. That was a wicked record. And I also really liked their recent one, In the Court of the Dragon. So they've got some good tunes. And yeah, played kind of the big hits, really. Good, solid, really liked it. So in terms of ranking them, I don't think they can go any higher than Electric Callboy. I think they go in lower than that. For me personally, I think I enjoyed As It Is and Paleface more. And I feel like I knew more Black Veil Bride songs than I knew Trivium songs. So I think I'm going to put them there ahead of POD. This is hard. Whose idea was it to do a ranking video? Yeah, I think I'm going to leave them there just because I think I knew more Black Veil Bride songs. But then Black Veil Brides did play a lot of new stuff which I didn't know. Do you know what? I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to put Trivium ahead of Black Veil Brides. I'm going to put Trivium there. I felt like I was more impressed with Paleface Swiss, and I'm more inclined to go away and listen to Paleface Swiss than I am Trivium. So I think I'm going to place them there for now. After Trivium, it was over to the second stage to see the headliner of that stage, Architects. Now, Architects are my boys. I've been following Architects since Hollow Crown. I've seen them play tiny rooms to a couple of hundred people max. I've seen them go through everything that band has gone through, from, was it Tim, the original guitarist, leaving, and then kind of getting around that, and then Ali, the bassist, stepping away and coming back into the band. Then everything with Tom Searle, and these guys have been on a journey. They've been through so much. Most stuff like that, like what they've been through, would break up most bands, if I'm being honest. I think a load of bands would just go, this is not worth it. But they've kept going and have found ways to reinvent themselves without going too far. So they are, if you listen to the more kind of recent records, obviously there is more electronic elements, there's more melodic moments, there's more sing-along choruses than there ever was in, Hollow Crown, for example, which is an out-and-out metalcore record. But I feel that the way that they've done it, they've constantly been able to make it feel like Architects. It's never not felt like Architects. And the trajectory that this band has been on, really since All Our Gods, it's just gone like that. Like, these guys have just got bigger every year. Every time I see them, they're playing to bigger and bigger crowds. On the headliner, we went to go and see them in Manchester. They were playing the Co-op Live there, which I think is the biggest arena in the UK now, and they sold it out. They headlined Bloodstock a couple of years back and smashed that. They're a wicked band. They are so good. I know I keep saying the word wicked a lot, but these guys are so good. And I think especially for the fans that have been there with them throughout, they know the emotion that goes into these songs. You know, my only criticism is that I think they've just released the 10-year anniversary edition of All Our Gods. And I know that that's a hard record for those guys to play live because of everything that happened with Tom. And Dan, the drummer, is, you know, Tom's twin brother. So I get that those songs are hard and difficult to play live, more because of the emotional weight that they carry. The only thing I would say is that the fans went through all of that too. I know it's a step removed. I know that. And I know Sam has come out and said before that they can't do Gone with the Wind anymore. You know, it's too much. And I get that and completely respect the decision for that. Part of me did wonder whether a second stage headlining slot at Download Festival would be the time that they might crack it out as a one and done, celebrate the 10-year anniversary, give a nod to Tom and that, you know, his band is in this position now. They didn't, and that's fine because the songs that they played are big songs anyway. And the set list was a really, really good Architect set list. I think that's just my own. You know, they didn't play it, and I'm cool with that as well. That's absolutely fine. I think the only thing to say about this Architect set, and I think from this point on, this became a theme of Download Festival's weekend, was the set stoppages. Architects had to stop their set 3 times in very quick succession. And I think on the 3rd time, Sam just got pissed off with it all, to be honest. He's clearly got the fans in the crowd in front of him saying one thing and waving at him and telling him to stop the show. He's got security telling him something different. He'll have his tour manager in his in-ears telling him something. And he's trying to perform. He's trying to do his job. You know, imagine you guys going to work and you're trying to, you know, deal with a customer and you've got 4 other people in your ear around you telling you different things and contrasting things. It's like, what do you want me to do? So I completely understand why Sam was getting frustrated. I've seen somebody on Reddit kind of kick off on him about it. And I think that's a bit out of order, to be honest. I don't think it's Sam's fault. And I'll come back to the wider point about crowd stoppages later on. But ultimately, for me as a fan, yes, I want everybody who goes to gigs to be safe. If there is a medical emergency, stop the show. If somebody needs urgent medical care, stop the show, get that person the help they need. Absolutely on board with that. If it's somebody's got a little bit hurt in a mosh pit and just needs a minute, step out of the crowd. I've been to gigs before where, you know, I've been in mosh pits where I've got a kick to the face and a punch to the nose. It happens. I had a crowd surfer land on the side of my neck at While She Sleeps once, and I honestly thought I broke my neck because I'd lost all feeling in one side of my body for about 10 minutes. Step out the crowd. That's not a show stoppage. That's get yourself some breathing room. That's not the band's responsibility. And I think there just needs to be a bit more realistic understanding in terms of people that are going to festivals. I think less so from the old guard, and I hate to be one of these people now that are kind of pushing this onto the younger kids, but less so from the old guards because we've been around the block. We know what going to Machine Head and Devil Driver gigs are like. You know, I think it's more the younger crowd where they're experiencing intense crowds, they're experiencing hardcore mosh pits for the first time. If those guys are getting a little bit hurt, but it's not a medical emergency, it's not a show stoppage. And it's not fair to then project that onto the band. I think there needs to be a clearer chain of command that Really, if a show needs stopping, security tell the tour manager tells artist, artist calls it. That should be the chain of command. I don't think one or two people waving in the crowd should warrant a show stoppage. Um, I think there just needs to be that sort of chain of command established, really. Anyway, back to the rankings. So, Architects, once they got over the stoppages, they had a really good run. I thought they were great. Sam's voice in particular sounded far, far better here than it did on the UK headliner. They're towards the top for sure. Possibly after Limp Bizkit. Possibly there. It feels a little bit harsh on Hailstorm because Hailstorm were excellent, but I think because Architects are like, one of my top 5 bands of all time. I've got Architects tattoos. Like I say, they're my boys. They're my band. So maybe I'm a little bit biased on this, but I'm going to put them in at number 2. And just on that show stoppage point, Limp Bizkit had a show stoppage, and that actually felt like a medical emergency. And what I've read, that definitely was a medical emergency. I've read that a guy had to be kind of stretchered out of the crowd. That is a perfectly acceptable stoppage. Like, don't confuse what I've just said about Architects. Like, there's a point between somebody needs urgent medical attention and somebody just needs 15 minutes to, catch their breath, check they're all right, go again, maybe go and get a little bit of first aid. They're quite different for me. And I thought Fred handled that quite well in the Limp Bizkit one. After Architects, I'll be honest, we were happy to call it there. The final band on the main stage on the Saturday was Guns N' Roses. I saw Guns N' Roses for the first time ever at the Black Sabbath Back to the Beginning show last year. They were dreadful. They were really bad. Again, I only caught a couple of songs of Guns N' Roses. Axl's voice has gone. Axl's voice is not there anymore. And you can tell he wants to perform, and kudos to him, but it's not Guns N' Roses like everybody wants Guns N' Roses to be. And it's a little bit sad, if I'm being honest. So this one is very easy to place. This Guns N' Roses are going dead last. Absolutely no qualms about that. Right, and then we're into Sunday. So the first act that we caught on Sunday was Rory. Now, again, Rory is an artist who I'm not too familiar with. It was okay. It was a little bit too poppy for me. And sorry, I meant poppy as in pop music inspired, not poppy as in the artist Poppy. But she did give a really, really good speech. I think she'd lost a co-writer to cancer recently, but that was very heartfelt. Yeah, she was cool. Not exactly my sort of thing. So I'm probably going to place her... I'm going to place her around Baby Metal. Sorry, I know this logo is not the best. I'm probably going to put Rory there. I'll put Rory there. So, after that, I caught a little bit of a band called Bloodywood. Now, Bloodywood are somebody who I have heard of. Not huge amounts, but really interesting how they combine what to me is sort of traditional Indian music with metal, and it just feels so fresh. Like, I can't think of another band who's doing that or have done that. It was really cool, the couple of songs that I saw. I think they were a band that I will definitely be checking out and listening to a little bit more of. So I'm going to put them maybe just behind Trivium, I think. I'll be honest, I then went up to the second stage because I wanted to go and see a band called Throne, who I'll come on to in a second. But the band that were on before them was a band called Dogstar. I've not heard of Dogstar. I don't know who they are. Actually, looking at the lineup, I thought it might be a pseudonym for somebody else. And when I got to that stage, you could not move around that stage. It was packed. It was like a headline act on that stage. There had to be something about this that I just didn't know. So we stood looking at it, and I'm like, the bassist looks familiar, but I can't place him. Could not work out like where I sort of knew his face from. I just thought the amount of people there, this had to be somebody mega famous like a Radiohead, who would just never play downloads really, but maybe have just snuck on the bill under a different name for a laugh or something like that. Anyway, after they finished and this packed second stage of crowd kind of clears out, I Googled them, and it turns out that the reason why I recognised the bassist was because the bassist is Keanu Reeves. And I think the reason I didn't recognise him is, to me, Keanu Reeves is like John Wick, with long black hair in like a black three-piece suit. And he had short hair. He might have been wearing a cap. He looked a little bit dishevelled, actually. But yeah, it turns out that I think everybody just wanted to go and see Keanu Reeves. Music-wise, not for me. Yeah, just a bit too slow, bit too melancholy, I think. I was finding it difficult to find something to kind of latch onto. So I'm going to put them kind of behind Baby Metal and just ahead of Guns N' Roses. So the band that I wanted to see was on after them, and that was a band called Throne. They're a band that have come up on my Spotify as like a suggested act and suggested music quite a lot recently. Very heavy, very metalcore inspired. Was quite excited to see these guys. A band is going to be hard as when the guitarist comes out in a black anorak with a cap on, and he just stands there like completely expressionless, just playing a mad riff that's heavy as hell. They were really cool, really, really heavy. It's going to be around the sort of Paleface Swiss Trivium area. I think I enjoyed Paleface more. I think there was the rapping, Slipknot-y element of Paleface gave me something to kind of get into. And the singer had quite a lot of personality as well, which is always enjoyable. Trivium had a couple more songs that I knew, was able to sort of enjoy their set a little bit more, possibly. So I might just bump Throne down to there. But still very, very good. And I guess just to say, as we kind of get into the last couple of bands, other than Guns N' Roses, some people will say that Guns N' Roses were good and they had a great time, and good for you. Kudos to you. If you went to see Guns N' Roses and you had a great time, wicked, happy for you. There was nobody that I saw that was actively bad other than Guns N' Roses, in my opinion. Dogstar's just not my thing. Baby Metal's not my thing. Rory, not really my thing. So, don't take this as me calling, everybody other than Limp Bizkit bad. They're not. Everybody was decent. Caveat other than Guns N' Roses. So then after Throne, we were back down to the main stage to see the Pretty Reckless. And I thought this was going to be, like I mentioned earlier, I thought this was going to be the band that I walked away from this weekend being like, they're wicked, they're a great band. In that Hailstorm, Shinedown, Blackstone Cherry sort of mould. One of those bands that starts playing songs and you're just like, oh, this is a tune. And you get really into it, and huge amount of stage presence. Unfortunately, that just was not the case. It was very bluesy. It was very slow. There was a lot of pauses in between songs. and so it fell a bit flat, if I'm being honest. I'm gonna put them quite low. I think I'm gonna put them ahead of Dogstar just because, like, I did know a couple of songs. The ones I knew, you know, they were a tight band. They played well off each other. But yeah, whereas I guess with Dogstar, I just didn't know anything. After them, then it was back down to the main stage for Ice Nine Kills. Now, if you've not seen Ice Nine Kills before, and you like big sing-along choruses, you like breakdowns with a little bit of screaming and some heavy moments, but more importantly, you like horror and theatre, do I have the band for you? This was fantastic. I've seen these guys once. I went to a headline that they played in Wolverhampton a couple of years back. Each song is based on a kind of different horror movie. I know they kind of have done some of their own stuff as well. But it's so theatrical. I mean, 3 songs in, and this poor stagehand had been murdered 3 times by different classic Hollywood villains. It's silly in the best way possible, and some of their new songs rip as well. So they've got a new song, The Art of Dying, which came out for the 3rd Terrifier film. And they bring out Art the Clown, who I'm not sure I can say what he did on YouTube without being banned, because it was violent, but just good fun. Just funny, outrageous. These guys also brought out Real Big Fish, who are like a ska band. I need to know how those guys know each other. Like, it's quite different worlds. And I really hope that there's some massive, outlandish story on how those guys met. And then they also brought out, I'm really sorry, I don't know her name, but she's from Creeper. She came out for a couple of songs as well, including one that's based on Scream. It's so nice to see bands come to festivals, know their mates, and just get to hang out. It's the same with Architects, actually. Like, our Architects brought out a guy from Landmarks because they were playing on the same day. And I always like at festivals when acts get to do that and like hang out with their friends, and you have these festival moments that can't happen on a headliner tour because, you know, the bands aren't touring together. But when, you know, your mate's band is playing on the same day at you at the same festival, it's really cool to kind of have those moments where different bands kind of overlap. So Ice Nine Kills, huge amount of fun. I'm probably going to put them maybe just, I don't know. They're towards the top. They're towards the top. I've got them after Hailstorm currently. Is that fair, or should they go above Hailstorm? I think musically, Hailstorm, I think it's obviously different, but Lizzie Hale's voice is unbelievable. The drummer in Hailstorm is unbelievable. I think Spencer's a great frontman. The band are cool, but I think the kind of the horror gimmick thing does provide a lot of the entertainment. So I think judging on oh God, that's a hard word to say. Musicianship. There we go. I'm going to put Hailstorm slightly above them. Then it was on to Bad Omens. So again, one of the bands that I brought a ticket for download on the basis of their name being on the poster. They were supposed to play a couple of years ago and had to pull out. So really interested to see them. I've only seen them once when they supported Bring Me a couple of years ago. But The Death of Peace of Mind is one of my favourite albums from the last couple of years. I have a couple of thoughts. The first thing that they did, and they did this on the Bring Me tour and it annoyed me then, was that after every song they walked off stage. That to me is just like, you know, grabbing the handbrake on a car and yanking it on. You kill all the pace, you kill all the speed, all that nice flow that you've kind of got from one song into the next just dissipates. And it feels like you've got to start again then. So it just feels a bit stuttery and stop-starty. Luckily, they only did that here for a couple of songs and then kind of got into a better flow with it. I think once they did that, they really picked up and picked up a lot more energy. I thought Nick's drum sound was low. Again, Nick Folio is an amazing drummer. I wanted to be able to feel that bass and feel that drum sound kind of resonate. You know, we were kind of just inside the... Download have these like big like speaker tower things that like they're similar to the ones that Metallica use. We were just inside one of those. I wanted to be able to feel that drum sound and I couldn't, which was a bit of a shame. And then they did these like video packages in between a couple of songs, which was about cassette tapes or something. I don't know. It was a bit weird to follow along with. So in terms of where Bad Omens go, we've kind of got this top line now through to kind of Electric Callboy. I think I enjoyed Electric Callboy more. You know, I've kind of got similar concerns in the sense that, you know, Electric Callboy went off and had these kind of robot graphic things and a couple of intermissions and stuff where it kind of felt like it killed the pace, and Bad Omens had the same thing. But when Bad Omens got into it, they were really, really good. So I'm going to place them just in front of As It Is. I'm going to place them there. 2 bands to go then. So we were back up to the second stage then for A Day to Remember, who were closing out the second stage on the Sunday night. This is a really easy one. Band of the weekend. And it's not that close either. Like, if you're looking for what a headline festival set should be, coming out non-stop tunes, one after the other, bang, 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 confetti cannons, big sing-along moments. This is everything that you could ever want from a festival set. This was perfect. So it's... I don't know what else to say. It's not hard. They were band of the weekend. Band of the weekend. You know, I've been trying to think for the last couple of days, like, is there anything that, you know, I'd have liked to have seen? And it might be the only time I will ever say this. I wouldn't have minded if they had played a couple of more new songs. Even though, like, their set was, to me, was perfect. It spanned For Those Who Have Heart. It spanned Homesick. It spanned Common Courtesy. It spanned What Separates Me From You. There was something for everybody. No matter what album of A Day to Remember you're into, there was something here for you. It was really cool as well how they brought in people to kind of be like the backdrop. It kind of made it feel like an old school low cap venue club set where, you know, there's no barrier or anything like that. And yeah, I know that was quite fun as well because that became a bit sort of people spotting. So I spotted the guy from Rock Sound. I spotted Steve, who does a lot of YouTube reviews and interviews and stuff like that. I know that he was back there as well. So that was really cool because I just think for those people, how awesome would that have been to have seen A Day to Remember that close from that perspective, like behind the band looking out over to the fields. And I think so many people were starting to clear out for and get a good spot for Linkin Park by that point that by the end of A Day to Remember, me and my wife were down the front. You know, we ended up in really, really great positions. Yeah, band of the weekend. And I think they're ready to headline. I really do. I think if you were to give them a headline slot, they'd smash it out the park. I've got full faith in A Day to Remember. So then closing out Download Festival 2026 was Linkin Park. Now, I think we've got to mention, obviously, everything that Linkin Park have been through, losing Chester a couple of years ago, taking a couple of years out to kind of grieve him and grieve the band and figure out if there was a future and what would that look like. And I do think that going with Emily as the new vocalist has been a really good choice. I think if they'd have gone with any other male vocalist, the comparison to Chester would have just always been there. And I think you're probably setting that person up to fail in that instance. Whereas I think with Emily, it's so much of a departure that you can't compare. So she gets to be her own front person of Linkin Park. And it really kind of like creates this new era of Linkin Park rather than trying to recreate that magic that you had with Chester, basically. I thought they were okay. I didn't think they were great. I thought the set list was bizarre. Starting on the Emptiness Machine, perfect. Gets Emily in the doors earlier on. Massive tune that's done really well. Big sing-along anthem, wicked. You've got to go then straight into, I don't know, one of your other big hitters, Paper Cut, What I've Done, New Divide, Bleed It Out. The list is endless. Like, go into a big hitter. And they didn't. It was just a bit bizarre. They were doing a Fort Minor cover within the first 6 or 7 songs of the set. The Catalyst is a song that I never... Like, 1,000 Suns was just not what I wanted from Linkin Park. So when that album came out, I kind of stopped listening to Linkin Park, to be honest. But seeing them on their headliner last year, I thought the Catalyst really stood out as a sort of middle of the set, kind of little palate cleanser before kind of kicking back in sort of thing. I think they played it song number 4 here from a Linkin Park festival headlining set. Just a weird choice. And I think one of the things that Linkin Park struggle with is the fact that you have an audience in that crowd who absolutely adore Hybrid Theory and Meteora, but don't really vibe with the rest of Linkin Park. And then you've got an audience there who really vibe with Minutes to Midnight, maybe a little bit of the earlier albums, but not the rest of Linkin Park. You've got an audience there who love 1,000 Suns but don't like the heavy nu metal stuff. And then you've got fans of this new era. And it's not as siloed as that. There is a little bit of overlap. But I think that just makes a Linkin Park crowd a bit weird. How you'll get somebody be really into a song and then they'll go to the next song and that person will shut down. And then this person over here will be really into that song. And then they stop, and then that person over there, they're really into the next song. So in terms of a sort of experience of being in a crowd, it just has that kind of stutteriness to it. It doesn't have that kind of nice flow, that good flow of energy that A Day to Remember came out with and just smashed it song after song after song after song. I thought Emily had too many instances where she was handing over lead vocals to the crowd. At the end of the day, people have paid to see Linkin Park. They want to hear Linkin Park, hear the songs. I'm all for dropping out for the audience to sing one line to kick back in and have that real powerful moment. But we were talking like whole verses and a chorus of no lead vocals. It just didn't work. It did not work. Then they did this stopping thing as well, where they'd finish a song, they'd start playing the riff of the next song, and then they'd stop, and they weren't even stopping for an emergency at this point. They were stopping for whatever reason, to have a chat, and Mike and Emily to, I don't know, sort of have a conversation that sort of felt like they were having backstage but brought to the stage and we weren't privy to. It was all just a bit weird. Then they had another crowd stoppage, which I'm not going to kind of retread old ground. You know, I've kind of said my piece on crowd stoppages. Again, if somebody's having a medical emergency, absolutely. Were they having a medical emergency? I'm not convinced, personally. As somebody who was stood in the field, you know, Fred Durst was like, make way, they're bringing a stretcher through. There was kind of none of that. There was a bit of a pause for a couple of minutes. The thing I read on Reddit, and again, could be true, could be way off, was that Emily was trying to get a women-only mosh pit going. And there was a guy to the side of that mosh pit who was tripping up some of the women. He then lost his shoe and was waving at Emily to stop the show because he'd lost his shoe. If that's true, if that's the reason that the show got stopped for 5 minutes or so, that is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. And this is why I think there needs to be a clear chain of command of security, tour manager, band. Tour manager tells the band, I've got a message from security, stop the show. Show gets stopped. No questions asked. Show gets stopped. But unless that chain of command is going through, it can't just be somebody waving at the singer to say, I need 5 minutes. That's just ridiculous. Because again, you know, you've already got Linkin Park stuttering, and this just killed any momentum that they had. And they did this interval thing as well, where they'd play these like electronic atmospheric interval things that went on for ages. They went on for so long. At one point, I managed to walk 250 meters through a full sold out download festival to go to the toilet and get back to my position before they'd started the next song. It's too long. Like, get into it. Let's play some songs. Like, we're here to hear Linkin Park play. It just didn't work for me. So it was a shame. I thought Linkin Park were better on the headliner at Wembley last year than they were here. I'm struggling here. Gosh, right. Let's work through this logically. Were A Day to Remember better? Yes. Were Limp Bizkit better? Yes. Were Architects better? Yes. Were Hailstorm better? Yes. Ice Nine Kills? Yes. Pendulum? Yes. Electric Callboy? Yes. If I'm being honest, I enjoyed Bad Omens more. If I'm being honest, I enjoyed As It Is more. So we're then into kind of this sort of area of Paleface Swiss, Trivium, Throne. I think for me, I'm probably going to put Linkin Park there, just after Paleface Swiss. Paleface Swiss gave me the energy that I'm looking for from a new band. They gave me that little bit of attitude, that little bit of swag, that little bit of rock star that makes me go, I want to go and listen to that band. So there we go then. So yeah, as I said, Day to Remember, Band of the Weekend, Limp Bizkit number 2, Architects 3, Hailstorm 4, Ice Nine Kills 5, Pendulum 6, Electric Callboy 7, Bad Omens 8, As It Is 9, Paleface 10, making up the top 10. And then you've got Linkin Park, Trivium, Throne, Bloody Wood, Black Veil Brides, POD, Rory, Baby Metal, which were all sort of in that sort of second tier of being good, you know. And then you've kind of got Pretty Reckless, Dogstar, Guns N' Roses, which didn't quite do it for me personally, but what do I know? So there we have it. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Let me know what your thoughts were. Let me know who you saw it download, and what your kind of thoughts about the acts that you saw were. And alternatively, if you disagree with anything that I've kind of said here and my rankings, comment down below. Let me know. Thanks for tuning in. As I say, this is kind of the first one of these that I've ever done. So enjoyed it and looking forward to doing some similar stuff going forwards on the channel. But yeah. Until next time, bye.